of the land. Why do you think they did this? I mean, where do you think this came from no compromise to 180 degrees, at least from Rand? And again, Ron hasn't spoken, so that gives a lot of acquiescence to this. Chuck Baldwin, what do you make of this? Why do you think they did this? I mean, I understand you said, hey, we know how politics works. I saw editorials saying 2 words for people mad at Rand: grow up and you're stupid. No, I get how politics works, but we have 99 other senators if we want to just have somebody play politics. I mean, they talk to us like we're dumb, and I think that's only making people angrier. I mean, I'm ranting here, Pastor, but what do you make of what I've said here?
No, I hear you. And I think what we're dealing with is, I think we're dealing with Rand. I think we're dealing with Rand Paul. I have always questioned in my mind whether or not Rand was the same quality of man as his dad was. And I just always had that suspicion. It was just a question. I wasn't sure in my own heart and soul that Rand was ever committed to the same principles that Ron was. And the old cliche is, well, time will tell. And so he's elected, he runs on the Tea Party, he runs on his dad's name, he wins. And, there's a few things that he said right after he was elected senator from Kentucky that kind of raised my eyebrows. I said, Ron would never say that. Okay, he's not Ron Paul, he's his son. I've got a son who's very engaged in political issues, and he and I don't see eye to eye on everything either. But there were some things that Rand was saying early on that gave me a little heartburn. And I thought, wow, is this me, or is it, what is this? So let's just see what happens. Well, I think we're seeing what has happened. I think we're dealing with Rand Paul. I don't think Rand shares his dad's convictions, especially as it relates to foreign policy.
Why Rand was right to endorse Ron.
And that's been the one big difference with Ron Paul. That's the thing that has set him apart from every other so-called conservative politician in Washington, D.C. You've got a whole bunch of them out there. They're conservative this, conservative that, and when it comes to domestic issues, they are conservative, quote unquote. But the thing that separates Ron Paul from all of them, and the thing that has given him the energy and the momentum and the respect that he has, is his uncompromising stand on constitutional government as it relates to foreign policy. Now, what do we got? We got a guy now with Rand Paul who apparently does not share the same convictions that his dad has relative to foreign policy. I mean, to go back to the interview that he had with Sean Hannity just recently, and he talked about the meeting that he had with Romney. And they talked about all these issues upon which they agreed. And all of the issues that they agreed on were issues that were, for lack of a better word, they were the fluffy domestic issues that, you wouldn't have a lot of difficulty disagreeing on with just about anybody who called themselves a Republican conservative.
Yeah, it's not that abortion isn't absolutely important, or gay marriage, homosexual marriage. The point is it's injected as something to never be settled to get us fighting with each other instead of the Foreign Federal Reserve running the country.
Well, everything that is collapsing our country today relates to America's foreign policy. And that includes this police state that is being created by this super surveillance state that's going on. That's all happening as a result of this unconstitutional globalist foreign policy that's been dictating the State Department and all the other international agencies of the federal government since at least the Carter days. All right? So that's the thing that has set Ron Paul apart. He has refused to compromise on those issues. He has steadfastly championed the constitutional position on a just foreign policy decision-making process from the executive branch of the federal government, whether it be Democrat or Republican. He's never compromised on that. He stood foursquare on that. And I think that's where we're seeing the separation between Ron and Rand. Rand must not, this is my opinion based upon what he's done, he must not share those core convictions relative to foreign policy, because here's the thing, when he says he's going to support Mitt Romney, that means he's going to support the war in Iran, the war in Syria, a continued war of aggression in the Middle East. This is going to be an expansion and an extension of everything that started under G.W. Bush and then continued under Barack Obama.
Exactly, and he admits 2 years ago after winning, he made a pilgrimage to meet with the top neocons and basically kiss their ring. And again, they say give up our rights because of Al-Qaeda, and then it's in the news they're using Al-Qaeda to take over Libya and now Syria, and Al-Qaeda says they're going to kill all the Jews in Syria and expel the Christians, and Hillary Clinton's making up massacres and stuff. I'm not saying Assad's a good guy, but I mean, this is so crazy. And and again, Romney is literally like the devil. I mean, if it was like Charles Key or somebody, who's a mainline Republican but exposes corruption, from a state level, and he endorsed him, I'd like that. Or if it was somebody, at a national level, they were endorsing him who wasn't perfect on every issue. Because you can judge the man or the woman, are they somebody of principle? I don't agree with a lot of things Jesse Ventura says, but at least he sticks to what he's actually believing in. Not that I would even supposedly vote for him, but now to just see Rand with this disconnect, himself on radio with Peter Schiff yesterday, and his surrogates saying, we want the Republicans to like us, so we're going to go with what the party establishment wants. That idea is 180 degrees the opposite of Ron Paul.
Yeah. It never works. I'm just a little shocked at that position, because historically it's never worked. Let's go back to the 1970s and early 1980s when Ronald Reagan, first came to power.
We'll do that in a minute, but Chuck, it works if you're selling out.
Yeah, it works. That's right. It works if you don't really care about the principles that you say you espouse. It works if you don't mind this slow motion suicide kind of a thing going on, where you never gain any ground and you're always going backward. But you yourself are being advanced politically, or whatever. Yeah, it works.
Very well said. Very well said. Slow motion suicide. I want you to finish your point about Reagan, but I want to put an article on screen here that Steve Watson did with a transcript of Rand Paul yesterday on Peter Schiff's show. And this is a quote. He said, there are definitely things in between good and evil. And I got to be honest with you, in my life, I have learned that statement is the essence of what the devil says to you when he tries to get you to start compromising. That is literally, in my experience, that idea of, do a little bad for the good. That's where everything begins to fall down. As a pastor, am I wrong or am I right?
No, you're exactly right. Incrementalism has always served the side of globalism and evil, wickedness, and slavery. We've been in this incremental fight, and we fight it like that. We got to get it. We didn't get this way overnight, and we're not going to get out of it overnight. And that's just so much hooey. Every great exercise of revolution, and I'm not talking about necessarily violent revolution, but
has been zero compromise.
Every revolution has always been a dramatic, sudden, catastrophic kind of event. You don't get anywhere incrementally except going downward. If you're going to break the yoke of this chain that we're in, you're going to have to do it suddenly. You're going to have to do it violently, and you're going to have to do it in a manner in which you're unwilling to accept the compromises of the status quo, and you are demanding that people rise up for a cause and a principle of righteousness. And the people accept the call, they see it, they rise up, and they bring that restoration, whatever it is, to the culture, to the community. That's what we have to do, and that's what Ron Paul has championed, and that's why his movement is so large, and it's why that it's been so successful. Now, this is a very unfortunate tack that Rand has taken. I think if he would have just maintained the conviction that his dad has maintained all through his career, and kept that same spirit about him, he would have been the no question, heir apparent, and we received all of the following, the respect, the support of Ron's followers, plus the ones that he would naturally attract, being a younger guy, and some of the people that would be attracted to Rand for whatever reasons would come on as well. But now he's going to alienate at least 50% of Ron's supporters. He's going to identify himself as someone who's not principled on the issues and is willing to compromise with the establishment. And whatever he gains out of it personally, the patriot movement, the freedom movement in America is going to suffer.
And as you know, it's all an illusion. There is nothing personal. It's all what you gain for true liberty and freedom. And wow, what you just said, Pastor, is so incredibly powerful. And I just feel so sorry for Rand Paul, because he had everything. I knew in my gut that if he just stayed the course, he was going to end up being president down the road. He was going to be such an important George Washington type person. But I looked at the man, I'd met with the man. I too said there was something almost too gentlemanly about him, that he was someone that just wanted to work with everyone. Well, you can't work with pure concentrated evil. You could try to take people that are corrupt and weak because of the flesh and change them. That's myself every day. But you're not going to change things that have given themselves over consciously to evil. And the idea that he believes you can compromise and get patted on the head by Mr. Flip-Flop, Mr. Abortion, Mr. New World Order Mitt Romney just shows bankruptcy in a fundamental judgment area. And it shows that, it's all the more sad because Rand Paul's clearly a good guy, that they've been deceived. And I'll tell you a story. I went to dinner Friday night with my dad. I never go out with my dad with dinner alone, but my mom was out of town and my wife had the kids, and so we were both getting off work late. I said, hey, let's go get dinner. So I meet my dad, and he walks right up to me. And I just said at the office at like 7 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock that I think this is a trap. I hadn't said this on air, but I want to get your take on this. I haven't said this yet. I said, I think this is a trap. They're so sophisticated at the globalist Mitt Romney level. They understand how humans work, how they operate. They've gotten to these levels because they're good at it, that they convinced him he'd get the VP or was in the running. If he would just do this and work with them, they know it's going to really hurt the Paul brand name of No Compromise, Dr. No. They know Rand's real power is that he's the son, heir apparent to this, which humans instinctively know is important. If you got a good father, the son's probably going to be pretty good generally. And that, simply put, my dad said, I think they figured this out and are suckering Rand Paul. They've told him he's going to get all this great stuff and going to end up saving the liberty movement and doing all this, and that they're really his friends and that they agree with his point of view, and that, oh, come on in, do this, and that they were really setting him up to partially cripple himself or destroy himself and hurt his father, while at the same time giving power to Romney. And my dad was telling me this, and this is exactly what I'd said 30 minutes before to the crew. And in my final equation, I think that's what happened. And I said last Friday, and I said last Sunday, and today, I said if he doesn't reverse himself, it only gets worse. There's nothing wrong with clarifying, not even saying, hey, I'm wrong, but hey, let me clarify. But if their handlers come out and say, no, this is politics, you people are too stupid, it'll backfire even more. Now, that's a long rant describing what I just said, but Chuck Baldwin, what's your take on that?
No, I think your dad's observation was spot on. I think that was great. This is what they do. They try to take a guy who has a following and who's built the following on a principle, who has a passionate conviction about whatever it is. And they try to bring a guy in like that, pat him on the back, and say, oh, yeah, you're doing, this is great, but, you just need a little bit of a sophistication here. You need to see the big picture, and we're going to help you. And they bring them in and they make, wine them and dine them and make them feel like that they're really important to what they're doing. And then, of course, as you just said, it's a trap. They don't care anything about Rand Paul. They don't care anything about Ron Paul. They don't care anything about you and me and the people out there across America that believe in liberty and are passionate about freedom. They don't care anything about us. But they will use anybody they can to their advantage.